I am Alex Shannon, the Deputy Coordinator of Agenda for Change, and I'm very thrilled to see so many of you joining us today. For those of you who are new to Agenda for Change, we are a collaborative network of over 20 organizations who are committed to strengthening WASH systems across the globe. What makes today special is that the compendium isn't just another resource. It is the collective wisdom of our community, and it was created and is owned by our members, developed for practitioners and by practitioners. So over the past year or so, 12 plus member organizations and allies have contributed their most tested and valuable tools. And we are going to share some of those with you all today and give you a bit more context behind why we created this. So moving forward, a little bit of housekeeping. You can go ahead and start introducing yourselves in the chat. Let us know your name, your organization, where you're joining from. We also do have interpretation today, so if you need it, you can select French or Spanish. Um, most of us will be speaking in English, but you can ask questions on either of those channels and they will be interpreted to English for us. And the session is being recorded. I know people will probably ask that throughout in the chat, but we will send you a copy of the slides and the recording after today's session. I am doing the welcome and introduction right now, and otherwise we will hear about the compendium itself, a little bit of background for why and how it was created. We also are going to be hearing case stories from implementers about how the tools, how specific tools were developed, used, and how they've impacted their system's work. We'll show you how to use and navigate both the PDF version of the compendium and the digital version on Notion, and then we'll have some time for your questions and a wrap up and next steps. Based on your registrations, we have an audience today that is primarily implementation focused. So you are the practitioners that are doing this work in WASH systems, which is perfect because these tools were designed for you by your peers. We have strong representation from both international and local level NGOs, which is particularly impressive, our participation from across Africa. We also have colleagues joining from Asia and Latin America. Most of you are working in rural WASH contexts, so you can see we have practitioners from across emergency response, those working in schools, health facilities, etc. So this mix is very diverse and goes well with the knowledge that we're going to be sharing with you all today. So with that, I will end the intro and hand over to my colleague, Irene, who led the synthesis of this compendium, and she's going to give you a fuller picture of what we built together. So Irene, I'm going to go to you now. If you can please introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Alec. Hello, everyone. My name is Irene Guy. I'm the Senior Manager, WASH System Strengthening and Program Partnerships at WaterAid. And I'm really happy to walk you through the conceptualization behind this compendium and why it's really a great contributor to the WASH sector, particularly in the context of the WASH systems work that a number of us are engaging in. Next slide, please. So why this compendium and why now? Maybe just to contextualize to the audience, I would like to flag that we are at a moment in the WASH sector where more actors are embracing system strengthening, but there is always this question that still lingers. What does systems work actually look like in practice? So this compendium is a contribution towards addressing that gap by bringing together tools that have been tested in real context, one to help diagnose challenges, but also guide planning, tracking progress, and foster learning. We also recognize that there is also a growing demand for greater coherence and alignments across different organizations and also between national and subnational actors based on the different contexts that you are interacting with. So we would like to just flag that while the tools in this compendium support system strengthening in practice, we would say that the collection helps sector actors to speak also a more common language about how to do that, even if the entry points are different. So maybe just to emphasize that this compendium is not about launching something new, but it's about curating and making visible the collective learning that we've all already been doing. Next slide, please. So, what will you encounter when you interact with it? So the compendium has 21 tools. These tools weren't developed by just one organization. They reflect the collaborative contribution of more than 10 different organizations like WaterAid, Beltunga Hillfair, Simavi, IRC, SNV, Water for People, amongst others. So this diversity is part of what makes this set so rich, as each tool brings together something different to the table. So when you engage with the compendium, think of it like a systems toolbox laid across the four broad stages of a project cycle. So what's useful about this collection is that it doesn't assume that everyone is starting in the same place. So whether you are in a planning phase, mid-implementation, or doing a learning review, there are tools here that will meet you where you are. We would also like to highlight that every single one of these tools has been field tested by organizations who are working directly with governments, but also with communities. So as you interact with this, to make it easy to navigate, in the compendium, we've provided a short summary of what each tool is for, who it is for, how it works, and what also to keep in mind if you're planning to use it. So things like how much time it will take, what kind of facilitation it needs, or where this has already been tested are some of the additional insights that we've provided within the framing. So whether you're designing a new strategy or whether you are strengthening local coordination or whether you're assessing sustainability, you'll find tools that can guide your next step. Next slide, please. So let's take a moment to just reflect on what makes this compendium actually become more interesting for you, not just in terms of tools, but in how it responds to the bigger challenges we face as a sector. So one of the common gaps or critical sector challenges we've seen is that there is a growing recognition first across the sector that traditional WASH indicators, while important, don't always capture what's happening at the systems level. So this compendium doesn't claim to have all the answers, but it offers tools that start to address those harder to measure aspects. For example, around coordination, around governance, around behaviors that shape how services are delivered and sustained over time. In addition to that, in terms of providing a framing for this, a number of the tools in the compendium use qualitative or semi-qualitative methods, which is really helpful, particularly when you're dealing with messy real-world situations where numbers alone don't capture the full picture. So the second element around this is just to mention that in terms of this being validated through practice, the tools weren't developed in a vacuum. They've been used in real programs by non-governmental organizations and also government teams across different countries, for example, in Malawi, Nepal, Uganda, amongst others. And the clustering of the tools was also presented to more than 40 stakeholders in a think shop setting during the 2024 World Water Week session, just to provide a sounding board in terms of how we were conceptualizing, putting together this kind of tools in one place. So while the tools are standardized in their structure, we would just want to flag that they are flexible. You can adapt them to different planning contexts and facilitation capacities, of course, in consultation with the agencies that developed them. So based on this, you have that kind of flexibility also to adapt them to your own context. And then we are also appreciative of the collective sector impact that this would offer, particularly when you look at these tools as a whole, because they are more than just technical checklist. They help teams to be more accountable, make smarter decisions based on evidence, and they also create space for real learning both within organizations and across partners. In a number of the tools, you're also seeing how they set the stage for what is next. One, by inspiring teams who are dealing with them to design also additional tools, adapt some of the approaches that work in different contexts, and use this to build capacity locally as well. So this isn't just a collection of tools, but it is part of a shift towards a more connected, thoughtful way of doing systems work in the wash sector, as you will hear from some of the members of different agencies that had contributed to this process. Over to you, Alec.
Thank you so much, Irene, for contextualizing this set of tools for us. I think we obviously have a very rich collection of cases that are going to be shared next. So we will move into the heart of our session now, where we will hear from these practitioners that you see pictured who have developed and used these tools and even iterated on them in some cases. These are real stories from different contexts, and they are going to demonstrate how these frameworks, how these tools translate theory into impact. So each speaker or set of speakers will share which tools they've used, what the implementation actually looked like or still looks like, the specific results they've achieved, and most importantly, their honest advice and recommendations for those of you who are looking to use or implement these tools with some iterations yourselves. So first up, we have Alex and Caroline, and I am going to hand the floor to you both.
Thanks a lot, Alec. I will kick off presenting our consortium that we have been active in since 2022. We integrate a human rights perspective into our program to ensure WASH services are not only technically sound, but also fair, inclusive, participatory, sustainable, transparent, and accountable. Some of you have recognized the principles of the human rights that we integrate. So our major goal is to improve health through systemic anchoring of sanitation services for all area-wide. We are working in 3 countries, which is in Uganda with Viva Con Agua and Kafomi, in Nepal with RSDC, and in India with Unati. And our global team is led, or the consortium is led, coordinated by Malteser International, and with the 2 advising organizations, WASH United on human rights and German Toilet Organization, where I work myself, on system strengthening, supported by the Institute of Sustainable Futures for learning and qualitative monitoring. In our program methodology, we combine the Make Rights Real approach with system strengthening. So in a first step, we actually put a lot of emphasis on team building, creating a environment of critical feedback with regular exchanges to shape an approach for an independent and common contextualized implementation. And in a second step, we go over fusing the Make Rights Real, a human rights-based approach for water and sanitation rights, where we find local government staff that face barriers around understanding and implementing the human rights to water and sanitation, and then go into a process of tailored ongoing support for them to empower as system leaders within the 3 contexts. And that's when then parallelly, but also like more focus is coming on the system strengthening part, where we use that perspective change in the local government staff for an evidence-based practice of system strengthening. Obviously, it will have the different elements like the stakeholder involvement, stakeholder analysis, approach harmonization area-wide. And the building block analysis tool is also a very important methodology. And this is now the one that is presented within this compendium for for everyone to read more about. What we are doing in the three contexts is to have that workshop based on the tool shared, and then go into like a planning process for the actual implementation that is being done. In our program, we use the IRC Systems Academy as a starting point for teaching, and therefore we are also using their building blocks to structure the system and understand it. But we have a strong connection to Welthungerhilfe and the Sustainable Services Initiative, and have used their scoring tool as a starting point. Combining the indicators from both IRC and Welthungerhilfe Sustainable Services Initiative, and adding on extra relevant indicators around human rights. We did a big online whiteboard exercise with wording, selection, prioritization, and then come up with that uncontextualized draft of indicators, scoring indicators for this, as an input into this workshop. And here a special mention to Laura from der Lande from WASH United and to Svenja Schrader from GTO, who have been very core in this process, together with Arno Curver from Malteser International. So what we is we try to not reinvent the wheel, but really harmonize within the sector, and then use that as an input for the three country processes, as I said, independent but contextualized. And each team was able to slash down some indicators, change them a bit, maybe add on, and go into an exchange process on the workshop design, workshop preparations, and the actual indicators. So India, for example, what they did is they had a snakes and ladders game to for those leading on this workshop or participating, to actually understand better what do we mean with these building blocks and system strengthening before going into that process, because we felt there was a big challenge. Now, Caroline Namuale, our colleague since the very beginning of the program, is going to explain more on our Uganda case. And she's our systems expert with Viva Con Agua.
Thank you very much, Alex. In Uganda, we had a 4 days workshop. In Uganda, we had a 4 days workshop that was mobilized by 2 district local governments, that is in Toroko and Munduja district. And the main focus for this workshop was to assess the 9 building blocks for the WASH system strengthening approach. The participant category in this workshop comprised of district local government officials, community representatives, civil society organizations, but also the WASH service providers. We were assessing the building blocks on a score scale of 1 to 4. From the assessment, we realized that finance, institutions, monitoring and infrastructure were performing at a very low scale of 2 and below. So under the program, we've used this as an entry point to strengthen the district local government's capacity so that they are able to coordinate, but also operate and maintain the already existing WASH system, so that they are able to deliver 24/7 WASH services. And also we have used finance, the scores from the finance assessment, as an entry point as well, to inform the district's planning, resource mobilization, and advocacy efforts. Our recommendation, based on the experience that we had during the workshop, but also implementing this tool, is that the focused group discussions, group discussions should be based on the 9 building blocks. Also, the other recommendation is that each of the participant categories, that is the service providers, service authorities, and the service users, should be represented while conducting this assessment when using the tool. And finally, ample time should be given to the participant categories so that they are able to have in-depth discussions, but also justify their scores and furthermore inform evidence-based action. Thank you very much. Over to you, Alec.
Thank you, both Alex and Caroline, for sharing. I'm going to keep us moving. I've been seeing some hand raises and I see the chat is very active. So if you can keep posting your questions there, we will have a designated Q&A in just a little bit. So we are curating those. And now I will hand it over to Avo.
Hello, everyone. I am Avura Tuarzon, Wash System Senior Technical Advisor in the CARE Global Water team. I'm pleased today to share our experience with the WASH Building Block Assessment tool from the RunWash project in Madagascar. It was implemented by a consortium led by CARE and WaterEd. From the start, our goal wasn't just to deliver services, but to help government partners strengthen the whole WASH system and make progress toward SDG 6. But system strengthening can feel broad and complex. This tool made it practical. We used WaterEd's WASH system framework, which comprises 9 core building blocks, as you've seen in the tool, including strategic planning, monitoring, financing, institutional strengthening, gender and social inclusion, environment and water resources, sector coordination, accountability and regulation, and of course, service delivery. But the model is more than just blocks. It also depends on the 3 main actors working together: government, civil society and communities, and the private sector, what we call the accountability triangle. All 3 must be engaged for the system to be strong. The tool gave government actors at national, regional, and communal levels a structured way to assess the state of their WASH system per block, including the 3 main actors. What progress has been made, what are the gaps, what lessons have we learned, and what building blocks need more action. In a workshop, the tool led directly the government-owned action plans. The project role was to facilitate and, when needed, provide training and technical support based on the government's priorities. At the regional level, the Regional Directorate of WASH used the tool for the half-year planning. Each assessment produced a clear profile showing which block needs attention. This helped them strengthen their technical support and oversight of communes. For example, clarifying how to apply the WASH code and each commune's responsibilities for ensuring services. Based on these results, the regional team guided communes, built their capacity, and improved oversight, especially around public-private partnership for water supply. These PPPs showed that good water services rely on more than infrastructure. They need strong planning, adequate financing for operation and maintenance, clear contracts, accountability to citizens, and sustainable water resource management. At the communal level, quarterly assessments using the tool helped commune leaders see the bigger picture of the WASH systems. They could identify practical actions such as including WASH in their local development plans, securing resources for WASH services and staff, for example, ensuring they have at least WASH technicians, and finding ways to increase local revenue and build partnership. This process had real results. Many communes that used the tool were able to increase their tax revenue significantly, giving them stronger budget to deliver on their priorities, including WASH. A concrete story is the rural commune of Kelilalna. Through the assessment, they realized for the first time they could engage the private sector for corporate social responsibility. They negotiated with a telecom company to pay local taxes and also build a new primary school as part of its CSR contribution. This new partnership came directly from their reflections during the systems assessment. So the key value of the tool is that it helps government actors themselves see the full system, which often reaches beyond WASH, track progress, identify what to strengthen next, and stay accountable for follow-through. The project's role was simply to support that process with training or technical advice when needed, but the ownership stayed fully with the government. My advice for anyone planning to use this tool is simple. Keep the focus on the government ownership. It's a tool that helps them put a good practice into action. Assess, plan, act, follow up, and repeat. The real value comes when the tool is used regularly, not just once, to monitor the system, to learn together, and adjust plans. However, we acknowledge that the tool is demanding. It needs a facilitator who understands it, can adapt it to the local context, and ensures the results lead to real follow-up. We also know that there is always room to improve it. So we invite everyone who wants to use this tool to adapt it, enrich it, and share back their results and the lessons learned. Together, we can keep making this tool better and help our whole WASH community strengthen systems in more places. Thank you very much. Over to you, Alec.
Thank you, Avo. You demonstrated so beautifully with that story that these tools are not developed in isolation from government processes, but they're actually being used to help strengthen and not replace them. So thank you for that great example. We are now going to hand it to our third and final case sharer, Sandra. You have the floor.
Thank you, Alec. Yes, my name is Sandra van Soelen, and I work as a project lead for the WASH Learn and Share project at CIMAVI, based in the Netherlands. And today I will be sharing the experiences of our outcome harvesting tool that we are using within CIMAVI to assess which outcome we have achieved in our programs. We have used this tool in two of our big programs, the Watershed program that ran from 2016 to 2020, and the WASH SCG program that ran from 2017 to 2024, and both programs were in different countries. And outcome harvesting is the tool to identify and harvest the changes or outcomes of a development intervention, and also to determine how these changes were brought about. It's especially useful in programs where the aim is to understand the process of change and how each outcome contributes to this change, rather than a program where you want simply a list of results and is more linear focused. So how did we use this tool in practice? There were different steps that we followed. The first step is to design the outcome harvest and set criteria for what constitutes an outcome. Second step is to collect data and stories from different stakeholders involved in your program in a workshop modality. In our case, we both invited our implementing partners, but also stakeholders such as local government officials or community leaders to join the workshop. And where available, we have also used documentation and draft outcomes in these workshops as well, from narrative reports or other sources. Then we substantiated the outcomes with evidence and validating data. The fourth step is to do sense making of the compiled evidence and link it to, for example, a theory of change that is available in the program. And the fifth step is to analyze and interpret the findings, and finally support the use of findings. So it depends if there's still room in the current program to use it, if you use it during implementation, or if you use outcome harvesting at the end of a program, it can be used for future programming. So how do you write down an outcome? That's an important part of this tool. So an outcome statement is actually simply who, which actor changed what, when, and where. And this needs to be as specific as possible. So the text can be a few sentences to really explain what is the outcome statement. A second important element is the significance. So what is the importance of this outcome in the light of the program's advocacy strategy or intervention? A third element is the contribution. So what activities and outputs contributed to the change described in the outcome? And this also links to when is it your outcome, or when can we say the program or our interventions contributed to this outcome? And the final element is the sources. So what kind of evidence can be provided to confirm the data or confirm the outcome? So for us, using outcome harvesting as CMAVI in our main programs really helped us to describe more qualitative changes observed alongside the theory of change that was developed for the programs. So actually we're working towards a practice of change, because of course the theory of change you think about at the beginning of the program, but the reality is often different than the theory. So outcome harvesting helps you to connect the two. And it was one of our main tools in monitoring and evaluation alongside main baseline and endline studies. And outcome harvesting can also help to identify intended but also unintended outcomes, and they can be positive and negative. Some lessons learned for us is that outcome harvesting can improve implementation through adaptive learning if this is applied during implementation, so maybe after year 1 or year 2 or midway the program. It also helped to better report to donors of our programs, and also to build a track record for future fundraising. There are also some limitations. The tool is quite time-consuming and also resource-intensive to organize these workshops, and they require extensive stakeholder engagement and buy-in and data collection. And there's also a risk of subjective interpretation of the results, so it's good to be aware of that. And to look into the future, at CMAVI, we are continuing to use outcome harvesting in our main programs to collect evidence of change. We are really interested to see what changes are happening in our programs. So this tool is really helping us to do that. And we also continue working with our implementing partners to ensure they have the capacity and they feel comfortable to use the tools. So that is it for me. Back to you, Alec.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you also to Avo, Alex, and Caroline for sharing a little bit more about your tools with us. Just to kind of bring that all together, I heard a lot of collaborative definition of need, also a lot of iteration, there was implementation and monitoring or analysis, and I also think some long-term learning and adaptation, which are all pieces of our project cycle management that we will go through for how these tools were clustered and can be used for everyone's purposes here. I also just wanted to note quickly that we do not have the perspective of government today, although my colleagues have shared various ways that they have worked with government and that government have used these tools. But my colleague Amelia is going to drop a resource in the chat that outlines the story of the Malawi Ministry of Water and Sanitation, who actually took this building block analysis tool and used it to implement a climate resilient financing strategy, which is quite an inspiring story and a successful use of the tools. So wrapping this section up, we are now going to move over to my colleague Stefan, who is also one of the co-authors and main implementers of this compendium. And he is going to take us into an overview and a demo of how to use these various tools, both the PDF and the digital versions. Stefan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think no one wants to browse through a big document with 50 pages and 21 tools and get confused about the structure of the document. So we tried to design the doc as much user-friendly as we can. And as Irene and others already mentioned, we received 21 tools. So we asked ourselves, how can we structure these tools in a meaningful way? First of all, we assigned the tools to 13 clusters. Maybe you can go to the next slide, Alec, please. And these clusters, these 13 clusters have been assigned to the project cycle that you all will know. And we are talking of a project cycle on a very high level. We are identifying 4 stages, which are planning, implementation, including monitoring, learning, and evaluation. So the tools assigned to the planning stage cover processes related to design, diagnostic, and periodic planning. They focus on system diagnosis, context analysis, and strategic design. More or less, these tools will enable you setting baselines and baseline surveys and carry out adaptive planning. In the implementation stage, tools cover processes related to tracking progress against plans and supports your ongoing monitoring of progress and system performance. And more or less, these tools will facilitate adaptive management, responding to context and stakeholder input. Next slide, please. The third project cycle stage that we have assigned the tools to is the learning stage to promote reflection and achievement challenges and emergent lessons. More or less to foster knowledge sharing and stakeholder engagement. And the last stage is the evaluation stage that covers processes related to assessing what has been achieved and learning what works and what does not work. It combines multiple methods to evaluate outcomes and systemic change, and informs your decision-making and future programming and sector-wide learning. So this is what we've done. We've aligned 21 tools to 13 clusters and to 4 stages of the project cycle. Next slide. I will start now opening the PDF and showing you how you can be guided to find the tools that you actually need. For that, I have to share my screen. Wait a second. So actually what you see here is our product, the Compendium of Tools, opened in a PDF reader. And as in any document or publication, you can find acknowledgement, the summary, rationale and purpose, some information on methodology, and first overview of tools analyzed. And then finally, which is the center page of this publication, it's a table which provides an overview of tools and clustered that have been analyzed. And I will show you this document is full of hyperlinks, so you can directly navigate to the tools that are of your interest. On the left side, and maybe I enlarge the screen a little bit so that you can see it, you will find the project cycle stage that I have just introduced to you: planning, implementation, learning, and evaluation. On the second column, you will find the tool clusters. And there you can find the first hyperlinks. You can click, for instance, a tool cluster. What do we mean by tool cluster? It's, for instance, building block diagnostic tools, tools that assess wash service levels, outcome harvesting, power analysis, and etc. So if you click on, for instance, building block diagram diagnostic, you will be routed directly to a summary, a cluster summary. You will see here the tools that we have analyzed. In this case, it's been 6 tools that we analyzed. Also the make writes real that the tool has been presented by Alex already. So this is an example. You will find here a summary of this cluster and purpose and objectives. That's for all clusters. You will find a similar or the same structure. And the most important link is this one at the end of each page. It will guide you directly back to the tool overview. So if building block diagnostic tools are interesting for you, for instance, in your you want to have a closer look at the Water for People tool, you click here and you are directly at a one-page tool analysis. And also all the tools are analyzed in the same way. You will find a summary and a description of the tools, the purpose of the tools. You will even find limitations of these tools, how to apply it, where in the project cycle, the type of data collection, and whether it's relevant for gender equality and social inclusion. You will find that for each and every tool. Also on this summary page, you will find further information. Here you can click on access. You will be routed directly to the Water for People site, and you will click, if you click here, you can send Water for People a direct request for further information. Let me try to click here. What happens? Do you see? Yeah, you can see the Water for People page directly. It's linked to it. Okay, and if you need further information, you can send water for people and email. So let's go back to the tool overview. Let's see you are interested in WASH in schools. For instance, you can click again for a cluster summary. In this case, we only have analyzed a tool from CRS. Again, you will find a summary of this tool on a very high level, purpose and objectives of the tool. You go back to tool overview and then you open the tool. And here again, you will find the same structure of the tool analysis, tool summary, description, purpose, limitations, etc. And you can click here and get further information. You will be routed directly to the CRS page. And if this is not enough for you, you can send CRS an email and request further assistance. I must admit, for many tools, we don't have an access link, or you can't find further detailed information on the tool in the net. Therefore, I would like to recommend that you directly send an email to the author or owner of the tool. Why is that so? Some tools are highly complex and yeah, Excel sheets with which need further explanations. So I can really say, please send an email to the tool owners. They will provide further assistance. Okay, in summary, this is the center page, that's page 10 of the publication, which will navigate you to whatever you want to see. Yeah, water aid tools, you can screen tools per organization, per cluster, and per PCM stage. But that's not even enough. And let me get back here. There's also a digital version of the compendium, which gives you a slight different angle how you can assess tools. Here again, you can show all tools on a internet page. It's not a PDF, or you can select tools by page. For instance, if you're interested in planning, you will see all the tools. And if you click here on the tool name, a window will open again and you will receive the same, even on a higher level information than on the PDF version, a very short summary of the tool where it can be applied in the planning stage, implementation, during monitoring and evaluation. Type of measurement, data collection is semi-qualitative. Also here you can access more information on the internet or write an email to the tool owners. And so you can go through the project cycle stages here, for instance, evaluation tools. If you are interested in this tool from Weltunga that we developed together with Aqua Consult, you will find further information here on a very high level, or if you need even more detailed information, I would recommend the PDF document. Yes, that's it from my side, and let me stop sharing and let me give back to Alec.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stefan. And I stopped sharing my screen about halfway through so people could see fully what you were sharing. I apologize for anyone that was seeing it so small earlier. That was a really great and useful walkthrough of how to interact with both the PDF and the Notion. And now we are moving to our Q&A portion of the session. I have seen some questions coming in the chat, and I think Amelia has been staying on top of those, which is great. I love the interactive conversation. We are going to open it up now and have some extended time for more questions or deeper discussions. If you have questions about the tools or want to speak to any of the authors, this is your time. Emilia, are there any questions from the chat that you can bring up for us to get started?
We have more than a question, a request to share
Okay.
about the bibliography of the compendium so it can be referenced with the date and the authors and with all the information needed for a reference. And we have some questions in our Q&A feature that I can go through right now. I can ask.
Yeah, please just go one by one. And
Yeah,
Stefan, I'll assign you the bibliography question, but that seems like something we can do.
yeah. So yeah, one of the questions was answered by the navigation demonstration. How can we access this tool for further reference? So that was answered already. And yeah, all of them are answered actually. Should I read the answers too, or?
No, that's fine. Does anyone else want to raise a question? You can raise your hand or you can post it in the chat and we will make sure that the authors and users of the tools are also receiving clarification. Stefan, is it fairly straightforward for us to provide folks with a bibliography so they can cite us?
And I mean, the publication itself contains all the references already. As I mentioned, you can access the owners of the tool directly. You will see the tool owners and who developed the tools. On the one-page summary, so that's quite easy. And you can even click on further access and you will directly be directed directly to the internet page where you can find further information, or even to the source where you can find further references. So it should be quite easy to sort out.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
they mean for the overall compendium, can we have like the authors listed, the date, if they want to cite the full document, not the tools within it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. So under acknowledgement, that's the first chapter, you will find all the details, more or less. And I suppose, Alec, that Agenda for Change shares the link to the PDF publication and also to the digital Notion version after the launch, and then you can play around and scroll the document.
Okay. That's clear. We can get back to the questioner of that.
And maybe one thing, I think the owner of the compendium itself and who should be quoted is Agenda for Change. So that's it.
I see some comments going on about maybe copyright. It needs an access statement. All right, great. Well, we'll get into the bibliography a little bit after this. If there's no more questions, I can just go over a few points for everyone. I think most of this has been covered here, but just to reiterate, all of the tools are freely available. Stefan has noted where you can see links to them if we have them. Otherwise, we encourage you to reach out via the emails that have been provided. We've worked to make as many of them as possible directly downloadable. And Amelia has linked to the blog posts that we shared with the launch of these. It has access to the PDF versions of the tools, and it also has the digital versions on Notions. One thing to note on language is that all of the tools, or at least the compendium and then the tool overviews, have been translated into English, French, and I'm sorry, in English, but we've translated them to French and Spanish. However, if you are looking at the Spanish version and you click the link, it is going to lead you to an English site. That is the main language that the tool users have posted those tools in. So unfortunately, we have no control over that, but the overview documents and the digital versions of the table, specifically the overview table, are in all three languages. I wanted to reiterate again on government integration that we are seeing successful adoption and adaptation of these tools by governments. I know we have mainly INGOs here today, international NGOs, sharing how they've adopted and used these tools, but they have been used to enhance existing government planning cycles and in cooperation with government. So these tools are not meant, or they weren't created in a vacuum, and they are not creating parallel processes. In many cases, they have already received input and adaptive development comments, et cetera, from governments. And we've linked to a further resource on our Stories of Change that goes in much more detail on how 5 different countries have actually worked with governments all the way from district to national levels to implement these tools. Several organizations will offer training on these tools, we hope. So if there are specific tools that you would like support on, we suggest that you reach out to the authors of those. And together with support from Agenda for Change, we could potentially offer you some tool clinics so that you can get hands-on experience. Are there any more questions, comments, clarifications before we move to the end of our session today?
There is one question from Kristen. He's asking how, if we're planning to keep updated, the tools to keep them updated.
Irene, I see you on camera. Can you take that?
I shouldn't have been on camera.
Tag, you're it.
Okay, maybe just to share with the participants is that the current version we have is the first version, and we've received this kind of request to expand this more. So yeah, the more we receive additional tools, Agenda for Change would be keen on updating this as well. So it will be like a living document that can be updated to accommodate as more tools as we have so that they can be more accessible to a broader audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also add that is a huge reason why we created the digital version of the tool, because updating a static PDF, especially as more and more tools come into the mix across 3 languages, can be quite time consuming and also cost prohibitive. So the goal moving forward is maybe to do annual updates to the PDF, but we can do free and easy updates to the Notion boards across the 3 languages. So we did plan for them to be updated. And if there are those of you here thinking that you have a tool that fits into the project cycle management and those 4 clusters that we shared, please reach out to us. We can give you more information about how to do that next. Is there anything further? We do still have a few minutes for questions. All right, well, you can keep them coming. In the meantime, I will go ahead and move forward with what's coming up next. Some of that we've talked about already. So what happens now? This launch is just the beginning, we hope. We would like to work together with all of you to maximize the impact of the tools and also of the compendium. One thing I mentioned is that we can create tool clinics and demonstrations. If you want hands-on sessions, especially virtual ones, where you can see the tools and actions. This could be at regional WASH forums, Learning Alliance meetings, project startup workshops, etc. Anywhere where you would like to demo specific tools and perhaps get into using them and adapting them. We can also work on embedding these in capacity strengthening. So for those of you who are training staff, running workshops, onboarding new team members, these tools really should be part of the DNA, we hope, for your WASH systems work. And these can become standard components of how we build sector capacity. And then, of course, we always need to mention that these tools should and will align with government processes. Dr. Max was not here today to share with us, unfortunately, but if he was, he would talk about how these tools work best when they are integrated into official planning and monitoring systems, not just INGO projects. And I think Avo and others also touched on how they've used these tools in district planning and with national governments. Finally, we can make this part of our standard project cycle management processes. So every time you start planning a project, you ask, which diagnostic tools should we use? Every time you're implementing, you ask, how should we track progress? So you make these tools part of the core institutional memory of your organizations for how you monitor and adapt and learn for WASH systems strengthening. We want to create feedback loops so that we can keep improving and iterating on these tools. So some ways you can do that is to help us with feedback on how these tools work for you, document your experiences, share your challenges, tell us what you've adapted and why. And if we can set up some feedback templates for you, we would be happy to do that or create other avenues for peer-to-peer mentorship and learning around using these tools. So as we've said, and as I hope is clear to everyone here, we don't want this to be a static resource. It is a living, breathing, dynamic toolkit that will get better as more people use it and feedback into the process so that we can keep iterating on it. I have a few more minutes left, so this is the last opportunity for questions or comments.
Yeah, if maybe a comment from my side.
Okay.
Alec, as you mentioned, it's a living document. So I really don't recommend that you download the document and print it. That would be worse. So use the online version. We'll work on it constantly. I already seen that there are some links might be not working. So we are updating constantly this document. So try to use the original link Alec will share with you after the launch. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other comments from co-authors or case study sharers before we wrap up?
Maybe just additional comment from me linked to what Stefan has shared, that the application of the tools is not cast on stone as well. Adaptation would be dependent on your context because some of these tools were developed inspired by specific context. So when you reach out to the tool owners, they're able to support you to contextualize, but based on the context that you're working in as well. Yeah, thank you.
Kate Harawa, I see your hand up. Would you like to come on mic? Perhaps you can share a bit more from Malawi side. Amelia, are you able to help Kate get on mic? I see she's been raising her hand. If not, we can go through the chat.
Let me see if I can do that.
And she's saying apologies and thank you all. So maybe it was not a hand.
Oh, okay. All right. Kate is our colleague from Water for People Malawi. I know she works very closely with Dr. Mack, so I thought maybe she was sharing a bit more. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we've addressed everything for now. I will go ahead with our closing and thank yous. 3 key takeaways and simple ways for you to stay engaged. You now have access to these 21 tested tools, which are ready for immediate use. And we know if there are links that need updating, you can let us know. I've dropped our email here so that you can get in touch with us. I think you also have my email from the webinar invitation, so you can reach out to me directly. The evidence is clear that systems strengthening can be measured, documented, and communicated effectively. And we would love your support in continuing to do that and to build this. And we hope that you will join our WASH Systems community and share our commitment to learning and collaboration. We are trying to build a movement that strengthens WASH systems globally, and that includes all of you helping us to do that. Next steps, you can check your email for all the links. We will include links to the compendium, both versions, the recording. I will include a copy of these slides if you'd like to go back and click on anything. And you have the email here for further contact information. Please start using these tools if you are not already, and share your experiences with us. And also a final thank you to our wonderful speakers, to Alex, Caroline, Avo, and Sandra for coming and sharing your case studies with us. We so appreciate that. And of course, to my co-hosts and co-authors, Irene and Stefan. You have been so generous in sharing your time and experience with us, and we thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. Take care.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alec. Bye-bye.